And then we'll have the discussion at the end. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank the speakers before me and after me, and thank you very much for being here at this very late hour of the day. Clinical studies topic is very interesting for me, but to be honest, I was not aware of its importance until 2 or 3 years ago. But now I'm involved in this process, and maybe from the general atmosphere of the panel, we can understand that this is an area where we are lagging behind and which can be very beneficial for the patients, for the country, for the researchers. I'm going to talk about some challenges in clinical researches. Some slides will be the same with the other speakers because they are the global resources, so I will skip them very quickly. In fact, pharmaceutical companies are investing an important amount of their income in the researches. For instance, when aspirin was found by Bayer, if they stopped there, it was the perfect drug for them, then they would not exist today. Therefore, pharmaceutical companies are working for the benefit of the patients and, of course, for their economic income, but they are allocating money for R&D in the end. There are 10,000 clinical studies carried out per year. We are talking about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 studies, but it of course changes according to this distribution. And together with medical products, approximately 7 or 6 novel drug applications are done per year. One of these slides that I would like to share with you is this. It is showing the sequencing of the industrial sectors according to the intensity of R&D activities. In fact, pharmaceutical companies are the leading sector. Drug industry, pharmaceutical industry, and biochemistry are spending 90 million euros for R&D activities. So this amount of money is spent for these research purposes. Shule Hanım and Mahmut Bey already said Turkey is very low in this share actually, because when we look at the population, we are as big as Germany, but we are very far from Germany in terms of R&D activities and the budget allocated to that. Of course, for the development of a drug, we need 10 to 15 years. This is something that we say most of the time, and the probability is 1 out of 8,000 molecules. Only 1 out of 8,000 molecules can go to the shelves of the pharmacies, and the cost is $1.3 billion. These are very challenging figures. However, at least I would like to hope that Turkey should be able to do it. I mean, $1 billion is very big money, and 1 per 8,000 is a very low probability. Who is going to wait for 10 to 15 years? I mean, these are the old ideas, old-fashioned thinking. I mean, we need to think prospectively. And the biggest sector in R&D is pharmaceutical and biotechnology. So as a country in the world and as an important country in the region, we have to have a say. And I think that it is feasible because we have the human capital, and also the country has an open horizon, an important vision for this. So, and also I am against the idea that you cannot do this, we are not able to do that. These are very big jobs, big professions. I mean, we should not say that. And we should not regard the pharmaceutical industry as there are going to be the R&D activities in the other countries, and then when the time comes, we are going to send you the drug. So it should not be the mentality. We should be involved from the very beginning. These are the big companies, and they have very big investments in R&D. Pfizer is having the highest investments in R&D. These are the figures in $1 billion, by the way. Maybe you may not have heard some of them, but most of them are also active in Turkey. This slide is going to be skipped. The figures may change according to some other distributions, but you can see that the number is quite low in Turkey. And this is the proportion of population and the R&D activities projects. So you can see Germany, its population is close to us. However, you can see the difference in between, and Germany is a developed country, as you may appreciate. So after the importance of this topic, in fact, Mahmut Bey presented the processes about the clinical researches, but let me summarize them very briefly. We have the chemical synthesis. It can be done in our country as well. Laboratory and animal studies can be done, and once the company makes the files, the clinical researches can be done. In fact, this clinical phase is, of course, of interest to us, and these parts are not so interesting for us. Other people in our country should do them. In some of the countries, there are so many centers, but I'm very happy to hear that there is one center opened in our country for phase 1. Phase 2 studies are also going on, and one of them is conducted in our hospital. So this is used in the use of the drug in healthy population, and also in phase 3 studies. This is the area where we are going to be involved the most. So in the globe, in so many countries they are conducted, but our country should be the place for that as well. People are afraid of these studies. They say that they are making experiments on this, but it is not the case. You know that there are this thick files that we use, but they collect so detailed information that one patient has just 3 files of this thickness. So I personally believe that, for instance, we are all in clinical practice. How many times you get an ECG for that patient, for instance, in your daily routine, but if that person is included in a study, in every appointment the ECG is taken, etc. Or some, for instance, how many patients of us can have access to us for 24 hours a day? Because according to the protocol, those patients included in the studies can reach us 24 hours a day. And also, the ethical boards are just checking that there should be no harm to the patient. So only after that condition you start a study. And when we explain the situation to the patients, if there is a good therapeutic communication, and if they understand what we say, then the patients are also willing to participate. According to my experiences, if I suggest this to 10 patients, 5 or 6 of them would participate, I should say. This is according to my own point of view. Yes, we are having difficulties, but if you spare the time and explain the situation to the patient, they get it. And also, the licensing period is not of interest to us as clinicians. I would like to skip that because it was already explained by Shude. Of course, the title is the scheduling or identifying a program, but what are the phases in the design of a product? The most important thing is the person who is going to use that drug. There are some unmet needs of the patients. Of course, together with the medical departments of the pharmaceutical companies, they make those analysis, and they also make a risk analysis for that unmet needs of the patients, and then they look at the timing. I mean, do they have time, and is the timing good for the production of a molecule? And also they take the guidelines and opinions of the health authorities. Are they up to date? And also they take into account many variables. And in the end, they evaluate whether this study will worth it or not, and then they identify the calendar or program. There is something that we should know about this slide. The pharmaceutical companies decide on the countries that they are going to conduct their studies, and also the centers in those countries. This is a weakness for us, maybe. There should be high data quality, so they want to trust that center and that country. We know that Scandinavian and Northern European countries have very high quality data, and they can follow up their patients for long years. I wish we could be like that, and I am not hopeless. The high data quality is very important for the pharmaceutical companies, because there is a great amount of investment that is done, and they have some meticulous calculations. Therefore, they don't want their investments to be in vain. And for instance, because of a problem in the quality of the data, or because of the problem in the transfer of the data, they don't want their investment to be in vain. The registry and archiving system is very important for the pharmaceutical companies, and also they seek areas where they have competent researchers. Therefore, for instance, there is a researcher from a company, from a country, and if there are more researchers being raised or getting qualified around him, then it means that that country or center will get more and more studies. The patient potential is also important. The documented medical history, the registry and archive system, these are all taken into consideration by the companies. And also the startup rate pace is very important. In our case, bureaucratic procedures take very long. In the United States, it's very short. So, and of course, there should be some calendar, some deadlines. For instance, this study should finish, for instance, as of January 2010. Then it should be like that. And if the licensing period or approval period is going to be so long, if they are to wait for 6 months like in Turkey, then they would like to go to in another country. And also the cost effectiveness is another important thing, and experiences are very important. If you just say that I'm going to do this study and I start, it is also a responsibility that you take on behalf of the country. And if you just give up in front of obstacles, and if you do not keep your promises in a study, then it's actually very detrimental, and it is actually to the disadvantage of those who would like to make studies in the future. I would like to summarize the challenges faced in the clinical studies, and I'm going to talk about some experiences that we had. Before the trial starts, a CRO company or a clinical research department of a company says, okay, can we make a study, a trial with you? Maybe they can make a proposal to you. And of course, the center passes through a feasibility process. Is there enough number of patients? Are the clinicians willing to participate? What is the infrastructure? So is it feasible to carry out that study in that center is checked. And if there are some mistakes in the feasibility process, of course the problems are faced in the future. And also they check whether the infrastructure needs can be met or not. The long approval process is one of the biggest problems that are faced. And before the trial, again, the researchers are also facing some challenges, like the taxation reductions in the payments of the researchers. An important amount of the share of the clinicians are actually reduced because of taxation. I think this is a challenge, this is a problem in terms of motivation. And the person may say, instead of doing this, I can do that and I can gain more money. I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying the reality. And we have just 54%, but in the other countries it's like 70 or 90%. I mean the money that is given to the researcher. And most of the time the assistive personnel do not provide enough support at hospitals. And also there are so many trainings needed for the trial procedures. I did not count. I'm sure Aytekin will know much better than me. Sometimes you have to receive the same training like for 7 times or 8 times. Sometimes you can receive those trainings at home, but sometimes you have to go abroad. And in a 6-month period, you have to take the same training from the same trainers. And this may be very time consuming and this may be boring at the same time. So you have to allocate more time, and it will of course increase your workload. According to the regulations, of course, there should be the appointment of a pharmacist, and this is a problem that we face. And also during the conduction of the trial, what kind of problems that we can face. In fact, we did not experience this in our center, but we hear about these problems. It may be difficult to find an appropriate patient. Sometimes the protocols are so detailed that you cannot find the appropriate patient for the trial. Sometimes you think that the patient is appropriate, but the patient does not give consent to participate in that study, in that trial. And it may be difficult to find the patients that you can collaborate easily. And sometimes the design and protocol of the trial can be very challenging. For instance, this patient should be sick for this time and he should not have taken these and those drugs, etc. So yes, you may say that I see 100 patients a day and 10 of them would be schizophrenic and at least 10 of them would comply with the criteria. You assume that, but you may not find that person, that patient who will comply with the criteria of the study. And also one of the challenges is stemming from the fact that the clinician does not know about the protocol. So we have to take down some notes, or maybe we should just hang it on our wall. For instance, you can just see the criteria just in front of you, so that you can have an easy evaluation of the patient in terms of inclusion to the trial. And also the level of information of the supportive and or CRO project team. It's very important. We can also have the problem of a site officer. I mean, there should be a site officer in the center. It is very facilitating for the participants, and sometimes you may not find that officer. And the registry system, reference documents, these are the problems that you may face during the trial. And also the perception of the society and negative perception of the patients about clinical trials. And also even physicians may have these kinds of negative approach to these trials. I think this is something that should be changed. And this is the reason, one of the reasons why we are lagging behind. I mean, we say what my other colleagues would say, what my other colleagues would think of me at the ethical board, etc. So this is a psychological hindrance in front of us. And also the lack of timely payments is another problem. And also the supportive and or CRO team members may change frequently. This is another problem. And also the the performance of the clinical research monitoring person is very important. There can be some unexpected budget items. There can be some trivial problems, but still they may exist. And also the physical area and allocation of time may be another problem for the trials. I would like to share 2 slides with you from the practical daily life. When you're a researcher in Turkey, what is waiting for you? Let me tell you. If you're a researcher, you have to carry out 3 or 5 tasks at the same time. I mean, you should not be saying that I'm going to follow up the patient and do nothing else. You cannot say that. You can be the pharmacist, the secretary, coordinator, nurse at the same time, because you need to have the necessary skills. You can be the coordinator of the trial, and even sometimes you can take the blood sample of the patient, put it in the centrifuge. You can, you would be able to call the cargo company, and you should also provide the ice. So if you're able to do them all, then you should be a researcher, and also you should be the clinician following up the patient. I'm sure that if you have been a researcher in a study, you may have experienced these things. So what happens if you're a researcher in Turkey? You need to fill out many forms. You write reports, and as I said before, there might be 3 or 4 files, thick files for each and every patient. You have to fill out those forms, and particularly in a new study, it would take 3 or 4 hours to complete the file of one single patient. It's a very cumbersome job, and it would take even longer than an operation. Of course, if you're a researcher in Turkey, your workload will be increased. Your workload will be excessive, and sometimes you may ask yourself, what am I doing? And also there will be a misperception if they know that you are conducting this study, and if they know the budget of the study. For instance, for one person, yes, you get the money, but you are accessible by that person 24 hours a day, and also not only that person, the relatives, all the relatives of that person may call you in the middle of the night. So that is a challenge. This is something that should be dealt with by the clinician. Of course, there are some good aspects of this, but it is challenging indeed. You may provide great profits or great gain for your institution, but nobody would appreciate you saying that, yes, you have contributed a lot to the circulating capital of the hospital. Nobody would think that. Only the small amount that you get in return for all of your efforts would be too much for the other people. But of course, you can overcome these perceptions. And also, during the trial, during the monitorizations, you will get so many visits from the country and from abroad, and also you may really be overwhelmed by this trial, and you may promise yourself that you will be never involved in a study.